Namaste, viewers. Welcome to Jaipur Dialogue and Jaipur Dialogue USA, of which Jaipur Dialogues chapter we are in the USA. And so I welcome you again. This is Vibhuti Jha, your host for today's conversation. And today I have once again a wonderful pleasure in welcoming Mr. PVR Narasimha Rao ji, whom you know, and he has been on our show, and he's famous for being a very prescient astrologer who has predicted and talked about what the star configurations say about the future. The star, or everything is all in the air, up in the stars. So the theme of today's conversation is we know certain things. We know certain things that hey, that is where the indications are. What do we do about it? Instead of falling victim to destiny and let it be, everything will be all right. How do we progress forward? What do we do to become what we must? So Narasimha Rao ji has, for example, mentioned earlier on that Modi ji will have a tough time winning. 400 nahi hoga, but 300 odd will work. But there was a cautious optimism about victory was sure. But the question is, how come, who were the people who did not vote for it? Whether they just gave up or whether they, just thought, oh, it's too lazy, he's going to win anyway. But you ended up giving him shrunken majority. Likewise, he has also said in the past that India's future is very bright. Now, whether we accept that and do nothing about that future, or then we recognize our responsibility, what must be done? Swami, Mr. Rao, welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA. So, welcome to the show, Narasimha Rao ji. You are going to India today, so thank you for joining, taking time out to talk about this. So, while you are in India, you will do whatever you have to do. I hope you are able to change the name of Hyderabad to Bhagyanagari. So, so tell me about that. How do we channel what we know into an actionable future? Because unless we do something, nothing happens.
Yeah, let's talk about India in general at the higher level, and then let's talk about what we can do individually, basically. Because whether you are talking about a nation or you are talking about individuals, destiny is not frozen. Destiny is not uh, a very well-defined thing that can't be altered. As a matter of fact, every moment as we act, we are shaping the destiny. So the force of the destiny, the momentum of the destiny from all the previous actions may be so high that with small actions currently we may not be able to change it in any meaningful way sometimes. But the thing is, destiny is not frozen. That's the bottom line. Destiny is always evolving as more and more actions are being performed, whether of a nation or of individuals. Now let's talk about India. Let's talk about the elections that are just over. As you correctly said, it is possible that some people were basically very complacent or just thought that because of all this talk of up ki bar 400 par, this time we'll get 400 or 350 at least is guaranteed, because there was so much euphoria and so many commentators were speaking as though 350 is guaranteed. So that can result in complacency. Moreover, elections were during the summertime when it is really hard. So if you think that your guy is winning, you may not be motivated. On the other hand, the side that is losing, they can be more motivated. And apart from it, looking at BJP's chart, Narendra Modi's chart, Rahul Gandhi's chart, there was some concerns. That is why in a video I did in February, I said that it is even possible that Modi ji may not get direct majority and may have to depend on a couple of allies. So
Yes.
basically, there were some warning signs. Unfortunately, this was not a great time for having elections from BJP perspective. But the thing is, they did. But the good news is, India is destined to keep going in the right direction. Had BJP lost, had Rahul Gandhi been able to form a government, it would have been a reversal of the progress for India. But in the current year, if you look at current transits, Saturn is in the eighth house from India's natal moon, India's independence chart moon, and Ashtamasini is not really a great transit. Like that, there are a few bad transits for India. And also, if we look at the annual solar and lunar return charts of India for 2023 to 2024, they look really bad. So just based on those charts, it is even possible that India will go in a different direction. But fortunately, there was enough strength in the charts of BJP, Narendra Modi ji, and enough weakness in the chart of Rahul Gandhi ji and Congress that it was just a break rather than a reversal of direction for India. There is just some break in the momentum. But one thing I am very confident of is from this August onwards, when after the Independence Day, the New Year starts, and this year is much better than the last year. The year between August 2023 to 2024 was a not such a great year for India, a year of some setbacks and possible reversals. But those basically just ended up being breaks, small hitches. From this August onwards, things will start moving in the right direction. And especially after next March, when Saturn leaves Aquarius and goes to Pisces, it should be a much better time for India. So one thing I want to assure the supporters of BJP who may be nervous that NDA may break, and because there are a couple of partners there, Nitish Kumar ji and Nara Chandrababu Naidu, who have left NDA in the past, who have a history of being with NDA, leaving NDA, being with NDA, leaving NDA. So one thing I'm confident is NDA is not going to break. If anything, India alliance may break. NDA may be able to get some people away from the India alliance or even from Congress I. So I'm not really concerned about Rahul Gandhi somehow or the other becoming prime minister. But the thing is, because of the way this government is formed, because of the dependency on the alliance, there'll be some compromises that have to be made. But I'm very confident that this government will be successful. It looks like right now there are some tensions and some obstacles, but they will find their way. But the thing is, as you correctly said, uh, if India is destined to progress, if India is destined to become a superpower, which I am very confident of, I've been saying for 20, 30 years that between 2020 and 2036, that is the period I identified. This 16-year period is a majorly transformational period for the world. This is basically a kind of transformation that happens once in millennia. So the geopolitical order will change during this period, and India will rise to a superpower status. But the thing is, it doesn't happen by itself. It happens because people basically do their work. It happens because a good leader comes up like Narendra Modi ji, or Ajit Doval ji, or Rajnath Singh ji, like that basically various Nitin Gadkari ji, various leaders who are capable, who are patriotic, who want the good of the country are placed in a position of power, and they do their best. And they choose the right bureaucrats and right people around them to make some important decisions. And then when it comes to the time of elections, people who are allowed to vote, they basically go and vote. So everybody has a role to play. But one thing I can say confidently, because this is destined for India, the force of this destiny is so strong, whether a particular person takes part in it or not, it will happen. But you are better off taking part in it than basically leaving it to other people. What I'm trying to say is, if a set of people basically say, "Oh, we'll sit it out," it will still happen. But the thing is, the course may be more difficult. It may be more convoluted. It may be more tortuous. So everybody, instead of thinking that somebody else is doing it, everybody should play a role and enable this. And there are two tracks here. One is Rise of India. Other equally important, or perhaps even more important, is the rising of Sanatan Dharma. India has to rise, Bharat has to rise, but also Dharma has to rise. And as a matter of fact, if India rises without Dharma, it will not be a sustainable rise. If you look at various other countries in the past, whether in Europe or in other parts of West, great civilizations rose. But the thing is, after a few centuries or decades, they just fell. And if you look at old days, India was a superpower for very extended period of time, and that was because there was dharma. So without dharma, if there is just material prosperity, that rise can also be very high, but it won't be sustainable. So what we need is, we need Bharat to rise as well as Sanatan Dharma to rise. And of course, if you want to prioritize, like I said in my previous videos, I think material progress is more important. currently, given that India suffered for a millennium, India was looted for a millennium, and particularly the last 2 centuries. And from being one of the top 2 countries in the world to basically being a third world country, India really suffered. And there's a lot of poverty in India, there's a lot of suffering in India. So, having financial power, having military power, and having all the infrastructure like schools, hospitals, etc. That is far more important than what I call dharma. But the thing is, I think India is already making good progress, and in the next decade, India will make tremendous progress along those lines. So it is time to actually also look at dharma and make sure that dharma rises in India, Sanatan dharma rises in India, and for that. Uh, there are a lot of challenges. There are basically there is a three-pronged attack on Sanatan Dharma. One is from people who are atheistic or materialistic or agnostic, people who say religion is the problem, religion has caused so many wars in the world. Doesn't matter if basically most of those are not, have nothing to do with Hinduism or Buddhism. Basically, these dharmic religions did not really go around the world trying to conquer and convert people. So, but the thing is, people, because there are other religions, especially the Abrahamic religions, that try to conquer the world and convert the world, and because of which there was a lot of violence, some people basically just take this simplistic view that religion is the problem. We need to basically be atheistic. So there is a danger to Hinduism from people who are atheistic and who are agnostic or who are just materialistic, who don't care about religion. And then there is a second set of people, the Islamic fundamentalists. So they have this notion of they want to create this caliphate. Basically, the whole world has to be converted to Islam. So, and we know of all the terrorist activities because of them, etc. So there is that challenge to India, and trying to convert Indians by force, by hook or crook. So that challenge is there. And in addition, perhaps a bigger challenge in terms of the numbers is from the evangelicals, Christian evangelicals. The West basically funds a lot of money to the evangelicals in India, and they have a lot of money. They are very resourceful. And I know in my home state of Andhra Pradesh, I know that whole villages are converted to Christianity. They go with a lot of money and give it to the head of the village, and he converts and he talks to everybody else. They get some small amounts of money. They're converted. And then in some places, they even make them walk. They put in Hindu gods, idols, murtis on the picture, or paintings of Hindu devatas on the floor, and they make them walk on it. It's basically like burning the bridge. You're burning a bridge so that you can never go back, basically. So this kind of activities are going on. So there is a danger to Hinduism, basically. And the thing is, the youngsters who are exposed to all these writings from any of these three wings that are engaged in anti-Hindu propaganda, they basically think that, yeah, Hinduism doesn't matter. Hinduism is, either they think that Hinduism is a superstition, or and there are other more enlightened religions, or they think that all religions are a problem. We basically need to be beyond religion and just focus on materialism. And that may, in the short term, as long as they're just focused on materialism, it can result in progress. But the thing is, as I said earlier, it's not sustainable. So we need to address these three areas, basically. The problem is, these forces which are working in an anti-Hindu way, working against Hinduism, they are very smart. They're very practical. They are not just imagining things and daydreaming. They have clear strategies. They know what are the fault lines among Hindus, like, for example, caste, etc. Even though it has been perverted compared to its original intent, they basically use it as a wedge issue, and they focus on these fault points within the Hindu society and drive those fault points into big chasms. And the problem is, if you look at those groups that are attacking Hinduism, they have fault lines too. For example, if you look at Muslims or Christians, there are a lot of divisions within themselves. And the Muslim community in India also has caste system. And moreover, among those religions, there are people who are more progressive. People may not be willing to accept it, but it is a fact that there are a lot of progressive people who are willing to basically accept other religions. And also, there are people who are agnostic or atheistic and basically think that religion is a problem among those religions also. And the problem is, Hindus do not spend any money or effort or energy in looking at those fault lines, understanding them, doing an analysis, doing a purvapaksha on those, and coming up with coherent strategies to basically exploit them and divide those groups. And we allow them, as a matter of fact, we club all of them into one entity, we criticize them, we say that this particular group, this particular religion, or this particular group of people are bad, they're anti-Hindu, and we are driving them towards unity, and we are driving them towards voting against parties that are standing up for Hindu causes. We have to basically make alliances, split those groups. It won't happen in a day. But the thing is, you have to put an effort, and I don't see any such effort from the Hindu leaders or parties like BJP. They basically, and even when they try to do that, there are forces within the right wing that basically go hammers and tongs on them. There is some lack of strategic thinking, and people are very naive. They think that you just basically club all your enemies into one and just yell at them. You won't solve the problem. You need to basically find a way to weaken them by dividing them and weaken them, and take on each group and have a clear strategy on how you are going to fight them. So that is one thing. There is another line I want to talk about. Now,
Yes.
apart from external enemies, we have a lot of internal enemies. We basically, people who are greedy just for a few extra bucks, they basically collude with these elements, anti-Hindu as well as anti-national elements. So that is one thing. And the other thing is, there are some well-meaning Hindus who like Hinduism, who practice Hinduism, and then suppose somebody starts chanting a particular prayer like Hanuman Chalisa or Sri Suktam, or somebody starts doing a havan by himself or herself. People talk about, oh, you can't do that, this is not the right way to do it, you don't have adhikar, you are not born in so and so caste, so you can't do it, or you are a woman, so you can't do it, or you are basically born abroad, you are a foreigner, you can't do it. The thing is,
Yeah.
I know when Europeans are doing homa, I know some Hindu scholars who basically tell them, oh, you don't have adhikar, you can't do it. The thing is, Sanatana Dharma is all encompassing. Everybody, if they are interested in following Sanatana Dharma, we should embrace them. We should basically be a big tent, and we should be flexible enough so that we offer the tools that are kindly given to us by rishis to everybody, and let them
Yeah.
basically see the power of them, see the fun in them, and become one big family. Instead, we basically, even the problem with Hindus is, not all, but several Hindus, they don't want to practice Hinduism. And if somebody is practicing, they find faults. You are not doing the right way, or you are not allowed to do this. Like that, basically, we put down people instead of encouraging people who are engaging in practice. So we need to basically become more flexible. As a matter of fact, rishis were very flexible. They were very tolerant. It is basically the
Yeah.
modern people who have all these rigid notions about how things have to be done. So go back to the way of rishis, be flexible, be all embracing, and let people basically embrace different aspects of Sanatana Dharma, because Sanatana Dharma is very wide. There are so many practices. There'll be something that somebody will like. Somebody may like to pray, somebody may like to do a havan, somebody may like to do a puja to a murti, somebody may like to chant bhajans and dance. There are so many ways. So encourage people to practice, not just talk. Practice the religion, and then those who are practicing, don't judge them, say, oh, this is not the right way, my way is better. Basically, we accept many ways to God.
We
So
have.
basically show that in your action.
I will come back here to interject a few more
Yeah,
points, because you gave
yeah.
wonderful education and learning to individuals who are watching this and who will watch it in future. That you
Mhm.
got to do your dharma, you got to do your duty. Like we are born in the world, whether you want to build your muscles or not is your call. You don't put it on destiny that, oh, it was not in my destiny to build muscles. No, muscle building, doing something, learning something is important. But there was a very vital couple of points you mentioned. One was,
Mhm.
that if you do not act, you end up having a lesser majority. Took the election in question. So people
As an
who
example,
thought,
yeah.
yeah, the people who thought that, oh, Modi is going to win, BJP is going to win, they did not get the adequate majority to do perhaps things that Modi was saying. I will do so many things in the third term. You also have Subramaniam Swamiji, who has made the pompous statement, declaration that this government will not last more than 1 year because they are hoping, as you very rightly said, that Nitish Kumar and Naidu may have their own little ambition, right? Oh, this is the time for us to negotiate in the name of NDA that the third term must, after the third term, we must get the share of the prime ministership. Who knows what will happen? We do not know that. But the silver lining is, as you very rightly said, that there will be disturbances, but we will continue to march forward. What the march will be up to us. So the point here, that other point which I wanted to mention, very, very important here, you talked about religion and dharma. Sanatan is dharma. Abrahamics are religion. And that's why there the clash comes in. So because
Mhm.
they have made institutional framework of called freedom of religion, which is inbuilt in our system, which is part of our default system, correct? They have to create
Yeah.
an instrument of freedom of religion, and we get plugged in. As a result of which, what
Yeah.
happens is majority of the Hindus, they think Christianity and Islam or Sikhism, whatever is there, they are also like various sects in Hinduism, right? But they are very sinister in their intent. So my thing is very simple. Do we need to fine tune some of our own teachings, which ends up hurting us? That's very important. That is, for example, I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
Ahimsa parmo dharma, and we forgot the second part, that you have to dharmo rakshati rakshata. Atithi Devo Bhava. How can you welcome somebody who is unwanted? The guy is coming to cut your throat, but you are going to offer him lassi and idli. It will not happen. He will have that and still kill you. Likewise, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Yeah, the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not a family unit. It's the God given world in which all humans are same. The sun, the moon, the elephant doesn't have any religion. So share with us some perspective on this, that how do we make our dharma more acceptable because it is supported by science and technology.
Excellent. So first, actually, one small point on the destiny. See, I always insist astrology is not a deterministic science, but a probabilistic science. In other words, at any point of time, it's not like three is basically going to happen. There are several possibilities. One road is more likely, one road is less likely, etc. So given that India is destined to keep going up, India is destined to become a superpower. Modi ji completely losing power and Rahul Gandhi becoming prime minister was basically ruled out. That's basically zero probability. But Modi ji having a good majority to do things faster was one possibility. But Modi ji getting a lower majority and then basically having to struggle a bit for a few years, and perhaps before 2029 calling for midterm elections and then get a much better majority, then that is another possibility. Like that, there are several possibilities, and out of those, some possibilities are more probable, and based on which we make our calls as astrologers. So the thing is, because things are not rigid, there are a lot of possibilities. We can act in a way to increase the likelihood of something that is more desirable to us out of the set of possibilities. So that is one thing. So we can never take it for granted. Even if a great astrologer or even Vishnu himself comes and gives a prediction, you have to basically take it with a pinch of salt and think that, well, that's a strong probability, but there are other probable events. So we need to basically work towards making them happen. Now, regarding religions, you made a very important point. See, people talk about secularism. The secularism concept of secularism, the modern concept of secularism, it originated in the West because of the history of religions using force and using the power of the state to basically coerce other people to follow that religion, and all the violence that basically ensued from it. But that secularism or sarva dharma samanatva, or accept, not really samanatva is not really the right word, but basically accepting that there are various paths to the divine. is basically inherent to Sanatana Dharma. We don't basically say that there's only one path. There are many paths to divine. So we are very accepting inherently. But the problem is there are some religions that came in Kali Yuga that are very, very divisive, that want to conquer, that have this inherent superiority complex. They think that they got it right, everybody else got it wrong, and they need to basically change everybody's thinking. So saying that all religions are equal or similar is wrong, because religions that don't accept that there can be many valid paths, many different valid paths to the divine. They're not acceptable. Basically, they're wrong. That is very illogical. The statement that there is only one path to God, there's only one set of procedures, because there is this thing called Desikala Patra. Things need to evolve with Desikala Patra, based on the place, based on the time, based on the uh, type of the person. Rules have to be basically adjusted, and that is present in Sanatana Dharma. But religions that are based on rigid rules, that don't allow them just to be adjusted based on the times, based on the type of person, based on the place that you are in, those religions are not really valid. So the thing is, we need to we need to basically be on the offensive instead of always being on the defensive. We need to point out the flaws of those religions, and at the same time, one subtle point I want to make. See, lot of adherents of those religions in India, they are Sanatanis genetically. Basically, their ancestors till a few generations back were Sanatanis. So their vasanas as well as their physical genes basically have that acceptance inherently. So there are Muslims, there are Christians in India who are very tolerant, who basically have this Sanatan dharmic thinking, even when a particular scripture that they follow may be explicitly stating something that is intolerant. They basically take it with a pinch of salt and say that, yeah, this is being taken literally, the real meaning is something else. So there are tolerant people in other religions, and we will be dumb to club all the people of a religion in one way and basically damning them. Instead, we should basically make an alliance with them. We should basically encourage them to speak out against the intolerance, against the rigidity in their own religion. So this is one of the things that I meant by identifying the fault lines in other groups that are against Hinduism and exploiting them. And one fault line is logical thinking, progressive thinking, liberal thinking, and more importantly, I will even use the word Sanatani thinking. There is Sanatani thinking among the adherents of other religions also, especially in India, but also abroad, but especially in India. We need to exploit that. We need to basically encourage them, and we need to kind of, even though they may be accepting other forms of God, we should accept them as basically in spirit Sanatanis, and make an alliance with them and let them speak out against their own religions, instead of we basically fighting a particular religion. The people who have been brought up with that religion, they take an issue with some of the tenets of that religion and try to basically reform it or try to correct it. That will basically go better. So this is something we have to do. We have to basically be on the offensive and make the right alliances. And the other thing is, to youngsters, we should basically, when we teach them religion, we say that there are many paths to God, but at the same time, a path that basically damns other paths and says that this is the only path, and even suggest basically using violence against people walking on the other paths. That's not a valid path. You are not going to get to God using that path. So we have to basically tell them, see, tolerance is a great quality that is basically inbuilt in Sanatana Dharma. But tolerance of intolerance is intolerance. Basically, like in mathematics, plus times minus is minus. Similarly, tolerance of intolerance is intolerance. So we have to basically uh, teach people how to basically distinguish between the right kind of tolerance and the wrong kind of tolerance. And regarding the sayings that you said, see, Atiti Devo Bhava. But the thing is, you treat somebody who has come without announcing as a god. But what if a Rakshasa comes to you?
Right.
You don't treat you once you realize that it's a Rakshasa, you fight him. See, if for example, when Vishwamitra was conducting the yajna, when Maricha and Subahu came there and started pouring blood into the fire, into the ritual fire, they didn't say these are Atithis. We'll worship Maricha and Subahu. Instead, Rama
Right.
killed them. Similarly, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The whole Vasudha, whole earth, basically, earthlings are one family. True. But the thing is, Mahabharata was a war between a family. They were
That's
brothers,
right.
children of brothers,
That's
but
right.
they fought. So you are a family doesn't mean you don't fight. When basically somebody is destroying the family, somebody is really, really negative for the family, you take them down. So the other thing here, one important point I want to make is, see, Hinduism originally was not a religion that just emphasized on being Santa, being very sweet, gentle, etc. See, Hinduism has this Varnashrama dharma. Brahmanas, their nature is to be Santa, to basically be gentle, to wish well for everybody. That is the nature of Brahmanas who pursue God. Then Kshatriyas, their nature is to become, like you said, basically grow muscles, become strong, and use the strength and might to protect people around you. So, like that, we have the Varnashrama dharma, and different people have different dharma. Some people are destined their dharma, irrespective of where they are born. If somebody is inherently a Brahmana, they have to basically they need to have that Santa guna, daya, and compassion for others, empathy for others, and lead others in the right direction. And of course, sometimes compassion for somebody may even be hurting, slapping somebody, because if you basically pamper a bad child, the child will be ruined. So when a mother or father slap a child, that is actually good for that child. That child actually benefits because of it. So, but the thing is, you
Right.
do it with a Santa mind. You don't basically do it agitated. You are calm and you think that I need to slap this guy so that he makes progress, and then you slap the guy. So that is the nature of Brahmanas. But Kshatriyas, they basically have might, strength, and use that might to to protect others, and maybe sometimes even egoistically. So we need to understand what is our calling, what is our inherent nature, and follow that nature. What happened to Sanatana Dharma in the last few thousand years, basically in the deep Kali Yuga, is the message of doing the right thing was lost, and being sant, being gentle, being sweet, that has basically taken over. See, sweetness is not necessarily the right thing. Sweetness can kill you, it can give you diabetes. Moreover, if the sweetness is natural, like from the sugarcane juice, it is healthy for you. But the thing is, if it is saccharine, it can even, some of these modern sweeteners, they can even cause cancer. So the thing
Yeah.
is, sweet is not necessarily the right thing. You need the balance of all the tastes. So similarly, this artificial gentleness has been overemphasized. And if you look at our scriptures, you have rishis like Bhrigu, Durvasa, who would basically give sapas, who will curse. But the thing is, their curses are not coming from an egoistic point of view, even though the story, when literally understood, may seem that way. They are basically to cause certain positive change in the world. They are basically triggering a set of events. But the thing is, and also when there is adharma, you are angry at the adharma and you want to basically do something to destroy the adharma. So anger is not necessarily a bad, uh, aggression is not necessarily a bad quality. And this overemphasis on being gentle made the Hindu society docile. Hindu society very, and earlier we had great kings who basically fought great battles and protected dharma. But in the last few thousand years, in the deep Kali Yuga, Indians became docile, and unfortunately, around that time, the foreign invasions, etc., started. So that was basically the dark period of Sanatana Dharma. We have to teach our and one more thing is, the other religions that came later on, like Buddhism, they overemphasize ahimsa, santaguna, etc. So basically, peace and being docile, being gentle, not fighting, these qualities have been overemphasized, and that is not the right way. What you need is, you need the right balance. In the end, what is most important is that you are doing what is meant for you. If you are meant to be a warrior, fight for dharma and give your life, that is what you should do.
You
Just
said
being,
something very
see, if you look at,
you said something very
yeah,
powerful, sir. You said
correct.
something very powerful about the Varna part, that we all have our own, dharma to live with. This is a very important message. This other one which you talked about, that we are inbuilt tolerant people, and I take that one step forward. We are
Right.
inbuilt accepting of others. We have been more accepting of everything else than we have been of ourselves. So as a result of which, we are
Right.
getting into the docile part of it. That's what is important, and this
Others
is
will exploit you.
very, Yeah, the other part you mentioned that is very, very important is that we have to learn the lessons of aggression. There's nothing wrong in being aggressive to protect and defend your own dharma. There is
Dharma,
absolutely no
dharmic
dharma.
experiment.
Absolutely. So when your dharma is threatened, your essential being is threatened, then you have to rise up. So one of the thoughts that comes about in my mind is that, you talked about a very important matter, that conversion, that people, my way or highway. Our dharma is all about complementarity of relationships, because we need everybody in a society and community to be successful. You need, just our own body is an example.
Right,
Head performs the function of thinking,
right.
adjudicating, wise wisdom. Hands and feet provide the movement, mobility. Stomach churns the engine, and then there is, excretion part of it.
Yeah,
Which part of the body is
yeah,
insignificant?
yeah.
We can't say that. We can't say that any part of our
Right.
body is insignificant. Everything has a role to play. That was Varna. How does an Indian today in America fight
Exactly.
the,
See, I just want to add one thing here.
yeah, please go
See,
ahead.
no, I was
Please
going
go
to
ahead.
say in the modern world, because of the rigidity of some of these religions and because of the strife between different parts of the society, all these notions of egalitarianism, equality, all these things basically came up. But our dharmic in Sanatan Dharma is never about equality, because at the core level we are all equal, we are all Brahman, but at the
Right.
manifest level we are not equal, we are different. Men and women are different, and different men are different, men of different varna are different. But it's not about inferiority or superiority. The word that we emphasize more than equality is harmony. Like you said,
Right.
head, shoulders, stomach, everything plays its role. Like that, different parts of the society, there is a harmony between them. Basically they harmoniously work together for a very effective, efficient, and sustainable society. And that was basically the way of Sanatana Dharma. As a matter of fact, I'll go far and say that that was the way of the most of the ancient world before the Abrahamic religions came and destroyed. If you look at various pagan religions that extended across Europe, Africa, Australia, and Americas, North and South Americas, they had the same approach. They had a sustainable and balanced way, harmonious way with nature, and they were sustainable societies across the world. And the way I look at it, they were all offshoots of Sanatana Dharma and perhaps connected in the old days. So, harmony is a very important thing. We should focus on that rather than equality. Now, go
I
ahead and make
totally,
your point.
I totally agree with you that harmony, when I use the word complementarity, is that each one complements the other one, and that's what
And
creates the
balance.
harmony. That's
And
what creates
balance.
the harmony. Like,
Yeah.
you can't have 1 ton of gulab jamun and expect nothing to happen. Likewise, you can't have 1 ton of idli and 1 ton of boti kebab and then survive.
Yeah.
No, it will not happen. Each one will hurt you. You need to have a balanced, harmonious relationship. But my thought process is, again, the education part, which is very important, is aggression part of it. We Hindus and Sanatanis end up being very docile in being defensive when somebody talks. And the one of the thoughts that constantly I am on a debate and dialogue with others is that we are the most peaceful community in the world. We have never waged war of destruction
Right.
to put our flag or our expand our territory, but we have
Or
spread.
religion.
Yes, we have spread.
Yeah.
Our thinking and thoughts have spread. Now, the important part here is we are being branded as the evil by Abrahamic people. Hindutva is being branded as something evil, whereas those who are committing violence in the name of their own religion, they are somewhere along the line oppressed and suffering. In 21st century
Right.
today,
Right.
how does one, you and I, how do we interact with them? And I have chosen the path of asking reciprocity and demanding that if you want to criticize me, I have equal rights of freedom, every kind, to ask you the reverse question. And that's what you were talking about, the fault line. Now, in your opinion, do you think freedoms are becoming the fault line of democracy, which the enemies of democracy and enemies of Sanatan are using it to their advantage and to our great disadvantage.
Couple of things. One is, as I said, in the deep Kali Yuga, we have become really docile. We misunderstood the teachings of our shastras. We thought that being sant is the most important thing. And also then Buddhism came, and the influence of Buddhism basically made us more docile. But the thing is, there is another aspect. When you are under foreign rule, when you are under the rule of other religions for a millennium, when people are basically being killed in the name of religion, so many people were killed and forcibly converted to other religions over the last millennium in India. So the thing is, people learn to basically keep quiet. People learn to basically somehow survive. So survival becomes more important than standing up, doing the right thing. So that basically over 1,000 years, over generations, it has been imprinted very deeply in the psyche. So if you look at the Hindu psyche, it is about, oh, I don't want to get in trouble. Why should I care? Let me just mind my business and let me survive. So basically, that survival instinct has taken over, and that is why in every other part of the world where these Abrahamic religions invaded, the original religions have been mostly eliminated. Only
Yes.
in India, you still have a majority Hindus. This is real an exception, and that is because this is destined to basically survive and again grow after a while. So it was destined, but the thing is, it is also because we made some compromises. We learned to live under aggression by basically keeping our mouth shut. So that basically that long habit of a millennium is not very easy to overcome. So we need to basically empower people, and moreover, as people become more materially prosperous, and that independence, basically independence, and the sense that Hindu India is prospering is imprinted more in the minds of people, the next generations will become more confident, and they will start speaking up more openly. But one thing is true, we are in a transition period. Hindus are just discovering their voice. And as a matter of fact, Sanatana Dharma is the most logical religion. And it's not just Hindus who are saying it. You see Westerners who have been dissatisfied with their own religion, their own Abrahamic religion, ditching that religion and realizing that Sanatana Dharma, especially Advaita Vedanta, is very logical, and they are basically accepting it. So what we need to do is we need to basically impress that upon our children that Hinduism is a very logical religion, and it's not a confusing religion. It has so many options because people have different tastes. Loko bhinaruchi. We are accommodating various aptitudes and various tastes, and at the same time there are some other religions which want to dominate, which have a superiority complex, which think that they know it all. Whereas Hinduism is open. It is open to your own evolving and getting closer to God. So we have to basically put it in the right perspective. See, the whole narrative about India and Hinduism have been created by the invaders. And people were very afraid to change those narratives because they were afraid of their own lives. So when you are under somebody's, when you are governed by other people who are who are not really for your religion, they're basically against your religion, you basically have to somehow survive. You have to live with it. So, but I think we are in a transition period. We have to make the next generation more aware of the logic of Sanatana Dharma, of how brilliant and open-minded and inherently secular and all encompassing, all embracing Sanatana Dharma is. At the same time, you have to make a strong case of why certain philosophies are not worth embracing, because they damage the whole openness of the Sanatana Dharma. So we have to basically stand up for it. And among the adherents of those religions, you have to enroll some, basically, you have to find some allies. That is most important. You can't club the whole religion and try to overcome it. It will never happen. You are not going
No.
to change all the people of a particular religion. You can't change them. So you can try, you can basically find, there are potential allies in other religions. You have to use them. See, people who are engaged in anti-Hindu tirade, they have some Hindus who are signing up with them. Now we have to do the same with them, basically. People, communists, atheists, Muslims, Christians, among them, find the fault lines and find some people who can align with us and develop these alliances, and basically start attacking them in a way that is basically meaningful and make sense to the younger generation. See, old generation is already old. You can't really change their minds much. But the next generations are important. Impressing things on them, making them see that being peaceful, being calm, peace is not really, if it's not sustainable, if it's harmful, if it's not balanced, peace is not the right solution. Sometimes little bit of violence may result in more sustainable peace in the long run. So overemphasis on peace, overemphasis on tolerance, we have to basically replace them with what is dharma, what is sustainable, what is balanced. At the same time, I want to make one important point. We want warriors. We also want warriors. We don't want everybody to be a warrior, but we want warriors of dharma. At the same time, we don't want to mold people to become Abhimanyus rather than Arjunas. We want Arjunas. We want those who actually win, who fight, who know how to fight and win. Not an Abhimanyu who just very bravely rushes into Padma Vyuha and gets killed. So sometimes in the Indian right wing, I see among the Hindu groups, I see this Abhimanyu attitude rather than Arjuna attitude. They don't think through. They don't think that if I do this, these are the possible consequences. This is more likely. This is less likely. So this strategy makes sense. They don't do that. They just basically they just have this hard blood. They just do things that may not actually result in something positive regarding their agenda. So strategic thinking. See, other people who worked against Hinduism, they were really strategic. They figured out their anti-Hindu agenda over centuries or decades, and they have a very clear agenda. And we have to really find the right agendas for them. There are people like Sri Raju Malhotraji who are really doing a great job doing purapaksha on some of these opponents. You have to study them. You have to understand them. You have to basically see what their thinking is, what their philosophy is, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and formulate the strategy for each group that is working against Hinduism. And if this is done over the next few decades, I have no doubt that, see, one thing going back, one thing I always said, and still I'm 100% confident is, in the long run, right now, Hinduism has big threats from a few other religions. In the long run, 20 years later, all religions are under threat from atheism. Materialistic atheism is the biggest threat to all religions over the next couple of decades in the world, and Hinduism has the best chance to survive that and defeat that. So, but the thing
So in
is,
that case,
we
so
have to
in
work
that
towards
case,
that over the next couple of decades. And the
so
next
in that
generation is
case,
the
we need to have alliance with the material atheists, because they are the ones who will bring about the the true understanding and the end of the faith the way we know it. Now, I want to harp upon the remaining time that we have. You definitely talked about a very brilliant point about the youth. Youth also has huge numbers.
Mhm.
There are very prominent Hindu young men and women who are rising up to the occasion, and they are doing their dharmic stuff. But at the same time, as we also know, that the weight of the adharmics is more. So as we are experiencing in the United States, which I know on a first-hand basis, that many parents are lamenting, and this is happening in India too, where people are saying that we have lost our kids
Right.
because we first generation people were not
India, it's happening
indoctrinated.
even more in India, sir. Happening even more
Yes,
in
that's
India.
what I said. It's happening more in India as well. It's because people are using, and I'm taking this cue from a tweet given by a handle called Times Algebra India, who talked about the fact that after the election, he went around traveling to talk to young people, and he reported two objections that youth of India had voting against Modi and BJP. One was they were upset that Modi was asking for 400 more, right? That's one. Number two, they were upset with the fact that BJP was talking about Hindutva, and they didn't like that talk about Hindus part of it.
Mhm.
My question is here to us, is all of
Yeah.
us, that hey, did you ever question Christianity and Islam for imposing them on us? You didn't. You kept your mouth shut at that time. When Modi ji was saying with delight and joy that, hey, I've done enough, I got you Ram Mandir, everything else happened in my tenure, maybe it's time for 400 plus. It was more of a desire and ambitious statement. You didn't have to punish him for that. So, how does the youth get motivated to understand rather than react on only peripheral information, or the or the churning of ugly feedback in this era of social media.
Unfortunately, the narrative that all religions are a problem, lot of violence happens because of religion, we should basically leave state and religion separate. This notion, this highly Western notion, is very mainstream. And many people go by that. And we haven't done enough as
Yeah,
logical and intellectual Hindus. We haven't done enough to basically distinguish Sanatan Dharma from Abrahamic religions and talk about the inherent secularism of Sanatan Dharma and intolerance of other religions, and also the suffering that Hindus went through. The basically, it was really a genocide of Hindus that happened in India for the last
yeah,
millennium. So
right,
the genocide of Hindus, we don't really talk about it. We haven't sensitized the next generation. And one thing is, if we do that effort now, if we started in the last few decades, it won't succeed immediately. You just have to keep working on it, and over time it will basically pick up momentum. So we have to just keep at it. Unfortunately, still the mainstream understanding is Hinduism is just like other religions. All religions are a problem. State and religion have to be separate, and then mixing religion with state will make people of other religions threatened. So that's basically the narrative. We haven't done a good job of basically countering that narrative in the mainstream. Of course, if you mostly on social media, if you are following right wing handles, everybody is on the same page. But the thing is, the country is not necessarily on the same page. So there is more work to be done and more minds to be won. And the other thing is, one going back to astrology, see, there are cycles. There are times when uh, religious thinking or secular thinking basically they dominate the public consciousness in cycles. Right now, Saturn is very strong in one sign, and Jupiter is in an enemy sign. Is very weak. And typically, when Jupiter is strong, then any campaigning based on religious ideology, talking about conservative values, traditions, etc., that has a better chance of gelling with people. Whereas when Saturn is strong, Saturn is basically the son of a servant. He's born to sun and his servant maid, Chaya Devi. So he stands for equality, caring about the downtrodden. So basically, socialist agendas, agendas not about conservative values but more liberal values. Socialist agendas will tend to do well during this period. Basically, this has been going on for a few years, and it is for another few months. Basically, in March 2025, the trend will change. But till then, this is a time when those agendas will gel better with people. Basically, this is the baseline trend based on astrological factors. So, in my opinion, if they ask me for my advice, I would have said basically don't play, do the right things for Ayodhya and others, but don't talk about them too much because that is unlikely to sway people during this election. Those who care are already happy that it is done. By talking more about it, you are not going to sway these people who are in the Saturnine line of thinking rather than Jovian line of thinking. So,
right.
but the thing is, one thing I am sure of is in the 2026-28 time period. By that time, next March, Saturn is already moved away from his own sign, so he's not that strong. And particularly 2026 May till 2028 July or August, Jupiter will be very strong in exaltation sign or in one sign, in friendly sign. So those 2 years will be a time of conservative values rising, and basically all the religious ideologies and things, agenda based on dharma, getting more gelling better with the public opinion. So I think politicians also have to look at all these transient influences in terms of planets and fine tune their agenda. In my opinion, the agenda this time was not really smartly picked. But forget about politicians and elections. We, as intellectuals in the society, we have to basically keep drilling these messages, and slowly, one mind after another will basically be affected by whatever we converse here. And in the end, people realize that Hinduism is a very logical religion, and Hinduism is not about dominating other religions. We are not actually against any religion unless they are against us and they are trying to dominate us. They are trying to
Right.
destroy us. So we are not trying to destroy
That's right.
anybody. If some Christians come and say that Hinduism is valid, and then Jesus was just one saint, one yogi, like Hinduism has so many yogis, and he taught this particular way. we will basically follow that way. But Hinduism is also valid. We'll be happy to basically digest them into Sanatan Dharma, basically make them be part of the Sanatan Dharma. So that is our approach. So we are a big tent where everybody is welcome, but if you want to throw stones at other people in this big tent, you are not welcome. So we need to basically get this understanding of Sanatan Dharma across. It will take time because the standard narrative has been driven based on equating all religions and saying that religion is a problem. State has to not care about religion. So we have to work hard.
Very hard. Coming to the end of the conversation today, and I want to have many more conversations because I have been asked many times, and many readers, viewers also ask. So we are like this. What is your advice to us? What do we do? So, I say this very, very simply put. These days we get very happy to see 10-day weather forecast, right? But and I know that our Panchang was so scientific in its own forecast of the planetary positions. Our Panchangs were so very powerful, right? So that knowledge existed, the wisdom we have lost. That's one thing. So I recommend to people, start from point A. And from my point of view is, start reading the stories of Panchatantra. Vedanta and Sanatan is very, very wide, very all accepting, but there is always a beginning point for learning. And from my point of view, learning Panchatantra stories are classic lessons of life that will get you involved more and more into understanding the dharmic way of our life. Your suggestion, where do the people make the start? Those who are not initiated yet, confused, want to know, what will be your thought? And that will be the last comment of the day.
Thank you. My suggestion is this. An ounce of practice is more powerful than a ton of theory. So instead of theorizing, discussions, reading, etc., practice something, whether it's a meditation, 5-minute meditation, or a 5-minute havan, or a satsang where you get together with people and discuss. Have some regular practice that you do, either on a daily basis or weekly basis. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be very time consuming. I know many youngsters, there are a lot of Homa manuals on my website, vedikastrologer.org, which allow you to do a Homa by yourself to various devatas. You can pick a devata, you can do a Homa. So old people get worried that maybe I'm doing something wrong and sky will fall on me if I do something wrong. But I know many young people who discovered the manuals and they just do it. And when they meditate in the company of fire, they feel something indescribable and they start becoming more interested in Hinduism, Sanatan Dharma, and start reading books. So basically, start somewhere, whether it's a havan, whether it's meditation, whether it's meeting some good people, reading a book. Try to basically practice the religion. And one thing is, because Sanatan Dharma is so vast and all encompassing, there will be contradictions. And though all of those can be reconciled, you can put everything in perspective. Don't worry about all that. Don't worry about the contradictions. Whatever makes most sense to you, whatever your mind is drawn to, whichever practice, pick that practice and make it yours. Don't worry about making sense of everything else, etc. You don't have to practice everything. There is something in it for you. So read about various practices that exist in Sanatan Dharma and pick something and practice it. And then there may be a lot of rules and technicalities. Forget about rules and technicalities. You basically, everything evolves with Deskal Patra, and that was the approach of Rishis. So based on your circumstances, based on your time constraints, based on the constraints of your life situation, whatever extent you can follow that ritual or that procedure, whatever it is, you follow it. So if you are doing it on a weekly or daily basis, something, slowly your connection will be formed to the devata, to the dharma, to the rishis. And once some connection is formed, the blessings of rishis will slowly start descending on you. When you have the blessings of rishis, you will slowly be transformed into a vessel through which the agenda of rishis to re-establish Sanatan Dharma on earth will basically be fulfilled. So you will become a part of the agenda. And some people, they're just behind the scenes and doing sadhana, and they are spreading positive vibes in the society. And some people, they're aggressive, they're debating in the on various social media platforms, they are arguing with people, they're creating organizations that making change at the ground level. But some people are just behind the scenes, enabling it with the positive vibrations from their sadhana. And then there are some people who are providing resources, infrastructure, money, like that. Basically, there are different components. You can be any of those components, it doesn't matter. But the key is to find your inner connection to the Devata and
Right.
Rishis. And that happens if you practice something. So my suggestion is, don't just theorize and talk and get angry on social media and just start tweeting. That is secondary. Primary is pick some practice and do
Yeah.
it basically on a regular basis. That will
Thank
make
you.
you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for your very profound and sound advice. Do something, practice something, which is very critical. Remember, my parting words to all the viewers is knowledge is one thing, wisdom is another. Knowledge, you can be very knowledgeable, but may lack in wisdom. It is important for you to practice. Remember one thing,
Right.
body learns, body does. This is a very important learning from all of us, for all of us. It's always the body. If any competence, any knowledge, if the body doesn't learn it, it is doesn't matter. Did we learn driving by reading the manual? Can we become a swimmer by reading the manual how to swim? Think about it. That's what PVRG is telling today. Begin to practice something.
Yeah.
That's where it will lead to the bigger change. Thank you, PVRG, for being with us today. Thank you so much. Have a happy, safe flight to India. Have a great time. When you come back, we'll talk again. In the meanwhile, to take the cue from PVRG, you have to do it. So when I say end my shows by saying Satyameva Jayate, it means you have to stand up and fight for the truth. If you don't, the truth doesn't win on its own. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Satyameva jayate dharmo rakshate rakshitah. Namaste. Jai Sri
Thank
Ram.
you. Jai Sri Ram.